kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
This House is now in session. Minutes for the meeting held on Tuesday, June 29th, 2021 to be confirmed. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that the aforesaid minutes be confirmed.
The question is that the aforementioned minutes be confirmed. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it. The aforementioned minutes are hereby confirmed.
Announcements by Your Honor, the Speaker. Messages from Her Excellency, the Governor General. Petitions, papers, government notices.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the Defense Amendment Bill 2021 and also to give notice of a resolution to grant the sum of $34,893,875 from the Consolidated Fund and to place it at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2021 to 2022 as shown in the Supplementary Estimates number 1, 2021 to 22, which form the schedule to the resolution.
Private members' notices, notices of questions, reports from select committees, first readings of bills.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the first reading of the Defense Amendment Bill 2021.
Second, please. Second.
The question is that the aforementioned bill be read here first time. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it.
Statements by ministers, congratulatory and/or obituary speeches, personal explanations, motions for leave of absence, oral replies to questions, notices of motion for the adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance, orders of the day.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the suspension of standing orders 6, 16, 18, 20, 42, subsection 5, 43, and 44 for the remainder of today's sitting.
Question is that the aforementioned standing orders be suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it. The aforementioned standing orders are hereby suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting.
Government business.
Government business is the order of the day.
Order number 4, sir. In the name of the Honorable Leader of the House, to move that the House resolve itself into Standing Finance Committee to consider the grant of sums of money for the service of this island.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that the House now resolve itself into committee and that you do now leave the chair.
The question is that the House resolve itself into Standing Finance Committee. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it.
Your file? Your file. Let me bring it here.
This House is now in Standing Finance Committee.
In the name of the Honorable Minister in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, to move the passing of a resolution to grant the sum of $34,893,875 from the Consolidated Fund and to place it at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2021 to 2022 as shown in the Supplementary Estimates Number 1, 2021 to 2022, which form the schedule to the resolution. Head 34, Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, in the amount of $22,153,875.
Honorable Member for Christchurch East Central.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I rise to lead off this particular appropriation, very conscious of the circumstances that the country is currently undergoing. But permit me just to provide a little context and to remind the Chamber that under this particular head this morning, we are responding to requests these funds in response to the current the ashfall event that occurred in April of this year. But Madam Chair, you would recall when this Chamber passed the Public Finance Management Bill in January of 2019, there was a specific clause, Madam Chair, in that bill that spoke to the matter of contingencies. And the contingency framework that was contemplated then was that these monies will cover expenditures for which obviously were totally unforeseen, and we put those clauses in there. But the reality of the situation is that when the ashfall event hit Barbados just about 3 months ago, whilst we were all monitoring the impact of La Souffre from about November, December of last year, the reality is that from a budgeting perspective, we did not know what the impact would be, and therefore the sums of monies being requested here really is to reimburse the various government ministries, which you will see as part of the addendum, in terms of the costs that they incurred in relation to the cleanup of the ashfall across the various government facilities. And in the addendum, you will see a clear breakdown, Madam Chair, of each ministry and what they would have expended in being able to have the country clean as quickly as possible. And therefore, these monies really just represent the initial costings as it related to the ashfall event. Now, just for clarity, Madam Chair, obviously monies were voted in the estimates process in March of this year, and therefore what we allowed the entities to do in order to respond to what was declared emergency was to use existing funds from their existing budgets to be able to do the cleanup with the understanding that the Ministry of Finance will reimburse, which is what we are here doing this morning through this parliamentary process, to reimburse the ministries and the various state-owned enterprises that fall under those ministries for the costs that was associated with the cleanup of the ashfall today. And therefore, on the passage of this resolution, Madam Chair, in this specific set of monies, the Treasury will adjust in the system using a process called the adjustment vouchers, which will give back to the various departments and ministries those monies that were expended from the existing budgets, which then allows them to continue to provide the usual goods and services that the public would expect from the government. But it would be remiss of me not to remind the country that whether it is the intensity of storms, which we clearly have just come through a weekend from, that climate change and these events will continue to impact the country. There is a cost of the recovery from each of these events, and even in a COVID environment, the government has to continue to ensure that the country can function and therefore what is required to be able to ensure that we can bring back some level of normality, we will allocate the appropriate resources to so do. I will allow, various members may choose to speak on their specific subcomponent in relation to the cost. But the reality is, Madam Chair, is that this is the first time that the Chamber will be voting under the new contingency head, but it is just administrative. It is to allow the government departments to be fully reimbursed with respect to the unexpected costs, which we had to use existing funds as part of their routine budget to be able to do, which as you know, is not ordinarily done, but the fact of the matter is the government was faced with an emergency, had to respond. We allowed the government departments to use their existing votes, whether it is maintenance of property or other subcomponents, to be able to respond to the immediate challenge, and therefore this process is just to allow us to be able to put that back. In response to clearly the fact that we have suffered a quite significant amount of damage as it relates to ELSA, we are still in the process of compiling the estimates as it relates to the cost of responding to that. And certainly the Ministry of Finance will be working with the rest of the government, including the Ministry of Housing, Transport and Works, to continue to ensure that the proper response for the rehabilitation, whether of structures as well as some of the infrastructure, that too can be accommodated in the shortest possible time, and that we can use over the coming months an opportunity to be able to respond and to rebuild as quickly as possible. And so, Madam Chair, with those few words, I beg to move that Head 34 stand part.
Question is that Head 34 stand part. All honourable members, you want to honourable member for St. Michael West Central.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise to support the bill before us in the supplementary because, and as the honourable member who last spoke indicated, the country was faced with an unplanned event. There was a volcanic eruption, and consequently, the country was littered with ash. As a result, Madam Chair, the Ministry of Public Works had to move into action as quickly as possible, not only to clean up the country, but also to ensure that the drains and the culverts around Barbados were not clogged to the extent that they would cause wholesale flooding across Barbados. And I'm grateful to the Ministry of Finance for providing, as part of the ministry's budgetary request, a supplementary for close to $13.2 million. The government contracted a number of ashfall workers who assisted us in the cleanup campaign across Barbados. Clearly, Madam Chair, as I said, it was not a budgeted exercise. And therefore, having those workers doing as much as they're doing for this country had to be paid. And part of the funds that we've been allocated, the $13.2 million, will fund the wages for those who have been contracted to assist with the ashfall cleanup in Barbados. In addition to that, we also had multiple contractors cleaning our byways and other roadways and major arteries into Barbados. And that also required that those companies who were contracted be paid. And this is part of what the government had to do in an attempt to keep Barbados clean. But like I said, also to ensure that the highways and the box drains and all the culverts were free of debris. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the hundreds of ash workers who were mobilized to assist us in what could be deemed our emergency recovery. And those workers went to work. In the first instance, they had to work 6 days, I believe for 2 weeks. And they continue to be on the job. And Barbadians, as they move around Barbados, they tell me, and I'm sure they tell other members in this honorable chamber, they applaud them for the outstanding job that the ash workers continue to do on behalf of this country. And I have to lend my voice. And say to them, thank you. And especially, if I may use this occasion, sir, ma'am, to say thanks on behalf of the constituents of St. Michael West Central, who truly appreciate the work that they have done in my constituency. But all across Barbados, we have seen in a very short period of time the removal of thousands of bags of ash from this country. In fact, Madam Chair, the ministry alone moved over 40,000 bags of ash from across Barbados. And that has nothing to do with the support that we got from the Ministry of Environment and National Beautification, who also had trucks on the roadways helping us to remove the ash. It was a collaborative effort undertaken by the ministries responsible for infrastructure. I also want to say thanks to the contractors who were mobilized at short notice. And I want to thank their staff as well, because they came to the rescue of Barbados at a time when Barbados needed much assistance in the cleanup exercise across the island. And this, Madam Chair, must also be a model, perhaps one of several, that we need to adopt in the country. And what it says to us is that whenever you're faced with an emergency, whenever you're faced with an unplanned event, that we have a core of workers in Barbados who can be mobilized at short notice, along with the assistance of private contractors, to clean up Barbados and to restore it to what it is and ought to be. We also very recently had Hurricane Elsa. And again, the workers have been pressed into action to help clean up Barbados and to free Barbados of all the debris that attended to the country as a consequence of the Hurricane Elsa. So I want to say that the funds allocated are to be allocated to the ministry to help us to supplement the budget that we didn't plan for, that we therefore didn't budget for, that these monies will go a long way in assisting us in the cleanup exercise around Barbados. The issue as well of the flood mitigation measures. And I'll speak to this because Barbadians have recognized, even though we had some flooding, that the water ran off in short time, very quickly. But that is in part thanks to the flood mitigation measures being undertaken by the government of Barbados and specifically the Ministry of Transport, Works and Water Resources. We've gone out there through the Drainage Division, and they have cleared a number of water courses. They have constructed detention and retention ponds, and those are areas that are cleared and are so designed to retain water within a catchment area to prevent the flow of water into lowland areas and causing significant flooding. What it also does, Madam Chair, it helps us to replenish the aquifer, and that is what we're doing. We've had situations in north of the island, and I speak specifically to areas of St. Lucie and St. Peter, where over time and over a number of years, we've experienced significant flooding, and in particular, Gills Terrace, I believe, as well. what we did, and I'm just using this as an example, at the Wim, Richmond Hill, Lonesome Hill, and also at Sailor Gully, we implemented a number of flood mitigation measures. And as a result, the flow of water that would normally move from upstream downstream was significantly reduced to the point where we didn't have significant flooding in areas of the Gills Terrace in St. Peter and also the Wim. We've also had a situation where at Bycorner Bridge, a bridge that the ministry continues to work on, but in the area that is flooding because of the fall from upstream Cafel flowing all the way through to Bycorner. The bridge is almost at a state of readiness and for completion. But at the same time, because of the flood mitigation efforts being undertaken, that area did not have significant flooding. And I can go on and I can speak across Barbados. And it's a lot of work. We're not finished, Madam Chair. There's a lot of work to do. But we also recognize that we only have so much money to spend. But at the same time, we are being very prudent and very judicious with how we allocate resources, because we have a history of where we've suffered significant flooding. I also want to say, Madam Chair, that there are several other areas in Barbados, and they're suffering as well from flooding. St. Philip, and I've had the opportunity to visit that area recently, and we are putting additional flood mitigation measures in place to ensure that we reduce the flooding in those areas. We also have situations that we have to attend to across Barbados. But I'm pleased with the progress that as a ministry, on behalf of a grateful nation, that we continue to work hard to reduce or mitigate flooding across Barbados. I also wish to say that the 2.5 million included in this vote as well for flood mitigation will also go a long way in helping us to clean some of our wells. It is no secret that we have thousands of wells across Barbados, but at the same time, we've inherited a situation where on an annual basis, we have to clean wells. There is a shortage, I have been advised, of well diggers across Barbados, but we are moving with alacrity to address this issue. But if we continue to clean the wells, identify new areas where we have to sink wells, along with the detention and retention and the swales that we have to construct in Barbados, those measures will go a long way in trying to mitigate the flooding that we have as a result of the climatic change that we are experiencing. It appears that we will have an active hurricane season. Climate change, as I said, it is real and is impacting us. But at the same time, as a ministry responsible for infrastructure works, we have to be proactive, and that is what we've been doing. I should also mention in the area of Goodland Gardens that we've started, and you know, Madam Chair, historically, we've had significant flooding in that area. We are cleaning the wells, and there are other flood mitigation initiatives that we're implementing, not only in that area, because that's a lowland area, but also upstream. When you come from Sergeant's Village and you come all the way in, we are implementing or putting in place flood mitigation measures to stem the flow of water into those areas. I also know that there are issues at Lowlands and Christchurch, and we are working around the clock to address those areas. And we also have a situation, like I said, at Warner's Gardens that we are working on, we are actively working on. But I also want to use this opportunity to appeal to some persons who continue to put oils and other substances into the wells of Barbados. In order we can go and we can clean. But if we continue to put oils and other liquids that are not meant to be disposed of in public wells, it will cause us a challenge. I have witnessed firsthand, Madam Chair, during the number of visits, and you undertake multiple visits across the constituency, across the island, where you have matters that ought not to be disposed of in wells being disposed of. And then they cause us no end of problem because they continue to clog and they block the drains, because then the water cannot recede as quickly as it ought to. And I really want to use this opportunity to appeal to those persons to desist from this practice in order to allow the water to continue to clean the wells, but also to allow the water to flow seamlessly and allow it to go where it ought to go. So in wrapping up, Madam Chair, I want to thank the ash workers and all the contractors involved in the cleanup exercise. It was done in record time, and certainly Barbadians recognize the value and the worth of all those who went to work to assist us in the cleanup campaign. I really want to thank the workers also on behalf of the constituents of St. Michael West Central for the outstanding work that they have done to mitigate flooding and to ensure that notwithstanding the challenges we are faced with, we will continue to do our best. But I also want to assure the country that the ministry will continue to do its utmost. It will continue to ensure that we implement additional flood mitigation measures, that we continue with our well cleaning, and that we continue with the cleanup campaign jointly with the Ministry of Energy and National Beautification to ensure that this country not only looks clean, that it remains clean, but to ensure that we have the flow of water that the flow of water continues to go in the areas where it ought to go to prevent any significant flooding across the island. Like I said, there will be the occasion that you will have some flooding. But the remarkable thing of all the efforts being undertaken by the ministry is that we are now seeing that water will recede in very, very short time. And I think Barbadians are seeing that. So I really want to say to the Ministry of Finance and to the minister in the ministry, thank you very much for coming to the assistance of the ministry. Thank you for allowing the ministry to continue its works with flood mitigation and other drainage challenges that we're encountering. I say that because we have to recognize that because of the pandemic, the government has not been in a position to earn as much as it ought to from VAT and other revenue streams. And because we don't have a significant amount of tourists on the island, yes, the government's revenue position would be in a state of decline. But notwithstanding that, Madam Chair, the government has still found the means necessary to continue to fund these urgent programs that are needed for Barbados, and to ensure that the people, that if they go to sleep at night and we have a flooding event, that they can wake up in the morning and see that the waters would recede into these specific areas identified, but also to ensure that within a short period of time that Barbados will be cleaner. And on that note, Madam Chair, I'm much obliged.
Thank you. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, ma'am. I just want to begin simply by saying thanks to the Honorable Minister who last spoke, Minister of Transport, Works, Water Resources, Honorable Member for St. Michael West Central, and my honorable friend, for determining that when allocation was to be made with respect to numbers to be involved in the national cleanup campaign post the ashfall, that St. Michael West and the people thereof would have been remembered, or were remembered, and that an appreciable number of persons were assigned out of the communities of St. Michael West to help with that work. I don't particularly like the nomenclature of ash workers, and I pray that something a bit more dignified may be found to be used as a descriptive, if, as is being suggested, it is purpose to continue to have that kind of a contingency plan in place when we're faced with these kinds of incidents. But I appreciate the fact that he called me personally and had his people call. I requested 25 names. I am not sure that I would have gotten the same amount as every other member of the government, and that is to be understood. And that is to be sincerely understood. But I appreciate the fact that we were not forgotten, and that we were given the privilege of identifying those who could participate in the program. I really do sincerely mean that. If I get up in here and I query or criticize when work allocation is made on a national scale and St. Michael West is omitted, and I rebuke or scold or attempt to critique the actions of those responsible for such exclusion, I must be equally honest to get up and say thank you when that is merited. This minister has shown that disposition. My honorable friend from Christchurch West, to a lesser degree, but to a lesser degree. His numbers were smaller, but his action. Ma'am, I'm trying to be sincere and genuine here in expressing appreciation. I do not know where these honorable personages come from. I'm trying to say that in this instance, the numbers given to us under the hand of the Honorable Minister of Housing, member from Christchurch West, that number was smaller. But he's of a similar disposition to my honorable friend from St. Michael West Central, because he has not done this in only one instance, but he has treated me well and the people of St. Michael West fairly in other instances, and I want to express appreciation for that. I know he would want me out of here as soon as possible. That is understood too, but at least while I am here, he sees the need and the duty of trying to assist me in representing the people of St. Michael West, and I thank him for that. I hear that it is intended that he and I leave in here at the same time, and if that be the case, I want to take the opportunity now to thank him for that, and again, to thank my honorable friend. And as I began, so will I end, and I want to just put that on the record.
Thank you. Honorable member for Christchurch East Central.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The statistician in me would render an analysis for the honorable member for St. Michael West. That would be pretty intriguing, but time does not permit me to go there now. But seriously, Madam Chair, I think as we continue to navigate what clearly has been some stormy waters for the country, I really do want to thank all honorable members and particularly over the last weekend, I think the country would have certainly experienced something extraordinary that we haven't experienced for some time. And members, not just in this place, but certainly the members of the various DEOs across the constituencies have really stepped up to be able to help with the assessment of the damage and to be able to respond to the immediate needs of persons. And it really does mean a lot, I think, for ordinary Barbadians to see the response of government. And the government will make the resources available as we must to be able to respond to the people's needs. And this is just one element of that initial disruption that we had earlier this year. Certainly, Hurricane Elsa clearly is a second disruptive event, which caused a different level of disruption and discomfort for Barbadians. But I know that all of us have been working hard, including the utilities, as well as the personal working ordinary Barbadians like you and I, Madam Chair, who have been working hard to restore the utilities over the last weekend, and I must commend them for the hard work that they've been doing over the weekend. And I say to Barbadians that we have been spared. Luckily, no one was injured, or at least reportedly injured during the passing of the storm. No one died, and I think we have to give thanks for that. And it serves us well to assess for ourselves our own individual as well as community state of readiness, which means that if we learn those lessons well, Madam Chair, and we all help each other, then I know that we will be able to withstand anything that comes our way. And so this weekend has been extraordinary, and I know that all honorable members in here are feeling the burn, literally, with respect to that. And I know that the country will continue to see that there is a path for us not just to recover, but certainly to become more resilient and for us to be able to chart a course for this country that would see less and less of this type of disruption, so long as we do things the way that they should be done, as opposed to in an expedited way. And so with those few words, Madam Chair, I beg to move that Head 34 stand part.
Question is that Head 34 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Madam Chair, Head 13, Prime Minister's Office, in the sum of $10 million.
Honorable member for Christchurch East Central.
Yes, Madam Chair. As you know, the COVID-19 pandemic is still alive and well, in spite of ash, in spite of the Hurricane Elsa. And the sums of monies being requested here is to continue the support for the Adopt a Family program, which, as you know, was initially voted $10 million at the beginning of this financial year. And therefore, this is to ensure that the program can continue and that the persons who still continue to benefit from this particular initiative, that they can continue to do so. Barbadians still continue to donate to that program, and I urge them to continue to do so if they can, because it is important, Madam Chair, that ash notwithstanding, certainly, and certainly with respect to the coming out of the last lockdown earlier this year, now we've had the experience with Hurricane Elsa. It is critical that obviously these families that were already in some level of financial stress, that we at least continue to be able to support them in this particular way until such time as the economy can recover and persons can return to work in full and be able then to support themselves and their families once again. And so, Madam Chair, I beg to move that Head 13 stand part.
Question is that Head 13 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 15, Cabinet Office, in the sum of $1 million.
Honorable member for Christchurch East Central.
Yes, Madam Chair. The ashfall event obviously came as a result of the La Soufrière eruption in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And as is customary, whenever there are events taking place that are disruptive across the region, the people of Barbados and its government often will lend support in what way we can. And this particular sum of money is coming from the Cabinet Office, which is the usual place for which these things are the donations of this nature come from, is to provide some of the humanitarian assistance, which really, I must say, thousands of Barbadians, even though we were beleaguered with our own issues as it relates to ash, did donate a lot have already donated a lot to bring some level of relief to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This $1 million is really the government's contribution to help and aid as much as it can with respect to the recovery in relation to, from a financial perspective. But I know that thousands of Barbadians have already been very generous, and certainly the Coast Guard in those initial days, as you recall, Madam Chair, were busy back and forth moving all of the items and stuff that Barbadians had donated to the people of St. Vincent. And so this is just a monetary donation as part of what we would normally do as it relates to giving humanitarian assistance, but also some level of financial aid with respect to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And so this $1 million is part of Barbados's relief, overall relief response to the people of our brothers and sisters, really, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we do hope that they too can not just get their own ash cleaned up, but with respect to the destruction as it relates to the recovery, not just of industry, but certainly within the context of getting the economy back up and running. I know that all of all Barbadians would want that our brothers and sisters who have suffered significantly, that they too can see a brighter path in the near future. And so, Madam Chair, I beg to move that head 15 stand part.
Question is that head 15 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 27, Ministry of Tourism and International Transport, in the sum of $1,740,000.
Honorable member for Christchurch East Central.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. As you recall, Madam Chair, the situation as it relates to COVID and the impact that it's had not just on global travel, but certainly on LIAT, has meant that the airline the operation of the airline came to a screeching halt, and as a result, the revenues plummeted as a result. Now, there are some Barbadians employed with respect to LIAT, and whilst that process is ongoing, the government of Barbados has determined that it will make an ex gratia payment with respect to those workers over the course of 12 months. They've already been advanced some monies already. This supplementary request then, which came from internal to the ministry, but this supplementary request is to be able to provide to those workers, and I believe, I speak subject to correction, I don't want to mislead the Parliament, I think it's either 104 or 114 employees that this money would apply to, which will see them receive $2,000 per month, but this money for 12 months, but this money is for the remainder of this financial year. And I know that the first payment started in May, and this will go to making that ex gratia payment on behalf of those Barbadian employees of LIAT, of course pending obviously the resolution of these circumstances with LIAT being registered and operated from Antigua. Once that is resolved, but we felt it was important that some relief is given to these workers in this way, which will help to ease some of the anxiety and burden as it relates to what effectively has been the cessation of the business model of LIAT, and hope that we can be able to see a positive resolution in that light. So, Madam Chair, I beg to move that head 27 stand back.
Question is that head 27 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Sorry. Madam Chair, I beg to move that this resolution...
Report.
Sorry, Madam Chair. I beg to move that you report to His Honour the Speaker the passing of one money resolution in committee.
Question is that I do not report to His Honour the Speaker the passing of one money resolution in committee. All honourable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
The chairman of committee is reporting the passing of one resolution in standing finance committee. Honourable member for Christchurch East Central.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this resolution do now pass. Oh, sorry. I beg to move that this resolution be read the first time.
The question is that this resolution be read the first time. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this resolution be read a second time.
Questions that the resolution be read a second time. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this resolution be now agreed to.
Questions that this resolution be now agreed to. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it. This resolution has now been passed. Honorable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the sitting be now adjourned until next week, the 13th of July at 10 a.m. Mr. Speaker, we obviously had a short session this morning. As you would appreciate, all of the members of Parliament, including the Leader of the Opposition, have been very busy over the past few days working with the respective agencies to bring relief to a number of the families that have been affected by Hurricane Elsa. As a consequence, many of us are part of the coordinating team to try to ensure that persons are able to move from the various shelters into accommodation. We would have given until today for persons to be relocated in the hope that electrical supplies, for the most part, and water would have been restored. And therefore, many of us will want to get back into the field as constituents no doubt require our immediate attention. If I seemed a little hesitant, Mr. Speaker, it was because I was just trying to confirm with the Prime Minister whether we had to do any additional supplementaries for next week or whether we could move until the 20th. So with that said, I've just gotten my direction that we will adjourn until the 20th of July at 10 a.m. for 2 weeks, and I believe that will give us sufficient time to be able to report back to the country fully in relation to this particular system. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the sitting be adjourned until the 20th of July at 10 a.m.
The question is that this honorable chamber be adjourned until Tuesday, the 20th day of July at 10 a.m. in the forenoon. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it. This honorable chamber stands adjourned until Tuesday, the 20th day of July at 10 a.m. in the forenoon.